ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्ण पाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। वेदान्तडिण्डिमास्तत्त्वम् एकम् उद्घोषयन्ति यत् आस्तां पुरस्तात् तत्तेजः दक्षिणामूर्तिसंज्ञितम्। So now here we are trying to go to the next verse. So we are trying to go to the next verse, that is the 30th verse, which we have already seen. We have already seen the 30th verse in the last time. Drik drishyau ubhau tau dvau. So he has said that. What is the meaning of this? It means that this whole universe can be divided into two things. That is, one is the Atma Swarupam, which means that which is the observer, that which is the experiencer. Now, what is the meaning of this? There is somebody, there is a conscious entity which is experiencing the whole universe of names and forms. And all the names and forms in this universe are nothing but mithya. They are mithya. What is the meaning of mithya? Here it means the names and forms are there for observation. They are there for experience. But really speaking, they are not there. The names and forms are nothing but the manifestation of Maya, which was talked about in the next verse, which will go again. In the next line, it comes again. In this particular verse, in the next line, also in the next verse, something is talked about Maya also, as to what is this name and form universe. In this 30th verse, the author says, this Jagat of names and forms is nothing but the Vikshepa Shakti of Maya. It is Maya's Vikshepa Shakti which has given rise to the projection of multiple names and forms in this universe. Now he says, Drik Drishyau Padarthau Dvau Tau Paraspara Vilakshana. Those two are Paraspara Vilakshana. What's the meaning of Paraspara Vilakshana? These two things are exactly opposite to each other. So, the Drik is the experiencing entity, the experiencing consciousness or the experiencer consciousness. And the Drishyam is nothing but the experienced Anatma Namarupa Prapancha. If you remember the Ashtamurthy Upasana, which is there, which is clearly seen in Dakshinamurthy Stotram, we have seen the Ashtamurthy Upasana. What is the meaning of this Ashtamurthy Upasana? There are 7 things which represent the universe. The 7 things which represent the universe. And there is only one thing which is the experiencer consciousness. I, the experiencer. If you're dividing the whole world into 7 things, then there should be somebody who sees them, who experiences them, and says that there are 7 different names and forms, and this whole universe can be divided into a 7-fold anatma universe. And there is one conscious entity, the I, which is the experiencer of this entire universe. And this is what is called as the Ashtamurti Upasana. We have already seen that. I don't want to go into details. In the Dakshinamurthy Stotram we have taken earlier, we will see that there is one individual experiencer consciousness, and in Dakshinamurthy Stotram, the Anatma Jagat, the Namarupatmakam Jagat, is divided into 7 different things. Okay. But now we have to understand that Anatma can be divided into any number, because Anatma, this is names and forms. Really, it does not matter whether you classify the Anatma into 2 or 3 or millions or dozens or whatever it is. So here, in this particular text, Acharya Narasimha Saraswati, what does he do? He divides the entire universe into 2-fold. One is the observer consciousness, the Drik, and the other is the experienced Jiva. And he says, Parasparau Vilakshanau Tau. These two are Paraspara Vilakshanas. Why? The experiencer consciousness is the conscious principle, the Sakshi Chaitanya Atma. Whereas the experienced Anatma is the Nama Rupa, unconscious Anatma Rupa Jagat Eva. So therefore, what he says is, Drik Drishyav Padarthaudo Tau Paraspara Vilakshana. There are 2 different natures, absolutely 2 different. And he says, Drik Brahma Drishyam Maya Syat. Drik Brahma. This Brahman, which is the consciousness principle, the existence principle, which is all pervasive, which is there everywhere, is that consciousness principle behind this experiencer, ahankara, mind also. The experiencer, I, when I say I, the ahankara, body, mind, sense complex, is nothing but that behind which this experiencer consciousness is there, which makes this particular body, mind, sense complex with ahankara as the experiencer individual or the experiencing individual. The Atma or Brahman has nothing to do with the experience, but it is the consciousness behind the experiencer, body, mind, sense complex, which makes this consciousness or Brahman as the Drik. It is the consciousness behind the perceiver. It is the consciousness because of which the perceiver is perceiver. The knower is knower. That is what we have seen here. Therefore, here it is said that is the Drik is nothing other than this consciousness Brahma. And what is Drishyam then? What is this multifarious universe of various names and forms? And here the Acharya says, Drishyam Maya Syat. This Drishyam is nothing but the handiwork of Maya. What is Maya? Maya is said to be that Shakti of Brahman, which has 2 kinds of powers. One is called as the Avarana Shakti, that which can veil, and one is called as the Vikshepa Shakti, that which can project. What happens in an individual? See, I'm repeating this again. We have taken this in the last session, but it is important for us to know what is Maya and what is Maya Shakti. We have studied that in detail actually in Vivekachudamani also. What is Maya? How does it work? What are the two different Shaktis of Maya? What are the two different powers of Maya? All that we have seen. So Maya, which is nothing but the Trigunatmika, that which has got the three gunas in it, and capable of projecting a Traigunya Vishaya Prapancha. A Prapancha which is made up of names and forms which are nothing but a manifestation of three gunas. And this Maya Shakti in an individual, Ajnani, literally covers or veils the reality of oneself. Who am I? I am this Atman. This reality is actually veiled by Maya. And when my reality is veiled, my Nija Swarupam is actually veiled, then what happens? The Vikshepa Shakti projects this body, mind, sense complex Anatma, and because of this avidya, I take myself to be the body, mind, sense complex. Similarly, what happens in the Jagat outside? Ishvara is Jagat. Ishvara manifests as this entire Jagat. But as I said, Maya Shakti cannot have any kind of a veiling power on Ishvara. Therefore, what happens? There is purely a Vikshepa Shakti. And Ishvara's power, Maya, what does it do? Taking the existence from Ishvara, taking consciousness from Ishvara, this Trigunatmika Maya projects an entire universe of Anatma of various names and forms. So, when it comes to the projection of the universe, what works is the Vikshepa Shakti of Maya. Ishvara literally projects this whole universe of names and forms with the help of his power, Maya. And Maya's Vikshepa Shakti literally spreads out this entire material universe. But in me, what does it do? In an individual, in this individual Vyashti, it not only projects the universe outside, but it also veils my understanding about myself. When my understanding about myself is totally veiled, what happens here is that I take the body, mind, sense complex, name and form to be real. I take the entire universe of names and forms to be real. This is the power of Maya, because of which I, the experiencer, not a consciousness, the experiencer, backed by this consciousness, I experience multifarious universe and consider it to be real. So what is said is, the drishyam is not real. The drishyam is merely an experienced object. The drishyam is merely anatma. The drishyam is merely a projection of Maya. Whereas what is real? Drik, Brahma alone is the reality. The drishyam is a mere vyavaharika satyam. What is the meaning of vyavaharika satyam? It is experienced as though real, but it is really not there. But this universe is sufficient for my vyavahara. With this universe, this body, mind, sense complex is conducting vyavahara. Therefore, this vyavahara yogya prapancha, which is not really a paramarthika satyam, it is not the ultimate truth, but it is vyavaharika satyam, being only vyavahara yogya. But what is my problem? I consider this vyavahara yogya anatma maya projected universe of names and forms as the reality. I consider this body mind sense complex, which is projected by the Vikshepa Shakti of Maya as the reality. Because of what? Because of my avidya. What is avidya? Avidya is Maya's avarana Shakti, which literally veils my real nature and makes me look at something else as myself, something else as real. I don't see the reality, but I see the projection of the whole universe as the reality. I forget the Paramarthika Satyam, which is Atman here, that Brahman as the Adhishtanam of the entire universe, but I take this body mind sense complex and the Jagat and its Vyavahara to be the reality. This is what is called as avidya. A Deha Buddhi, Dehatma Buddhi, that is, I am the Deha. With this Deha, I am conducting the Vyavahara with this universe. The Deha is also real, the Prapancha is also real. This is my avidya. So he says, Drik Brahma Drishyam Maya Syad iti Vedantadindimah. So some Upanishads say, Mayam tu Prakritim Vidyat Mayinam tu Maheshwaraha. Maya is nothing but Prakriti with its three gunas. That Prakriti which is capable of unfolding itself into a universe. But who is the one who is having the control over this Maya? Who is the Mai? Mayinam tu Maheshwaraha. The one that is Ishvara or Brahman is the one, is that consciousness which keeps this Maya under its control and projects this entire universe. That's what Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also. Okay, Mayam Adhishtaya. I preside over Maya. Mama Maya Duratyaya. My Maya means this my power, which is so closely associated with me, but not me. This is something very difficult to understand. But at the same time, I use this Maya, my power, lending my consciousness to Maya, and I create a universe. I project this entire universe. How? Using the power of my Maya. That is why Brahman or Ishvara is also called as Jagat Karanam. How can consciousness, pure consciousness, be Jagat Karanam? Brahman is taken to be Jagat Karanam because, okay, Maya Shakti, the Vikshepa Shakti of Maya, is projecting the entire universe with the support of Brahman or Ishvara. Therefore, it is taken that Brahman is the Jagat Karanam. Not Brahman alone. Brahman, with this power called as Maya, is responsible for projecting this entire universe. And out of this universe which is projected is nothing but false. It is nothing but anatma. It is merely namarupatmakam. Whereas the reality, the ultimate truth, Paramarthika Satyam, is none other than I, the Atma. Now, next he says, he again in the next verse, the 31st verse, the author again says how this Jiva came about, what is Ishvara and Jiva, what is the Upadhi Bheda. We have already talked about it, isn't it? We have said that Ishvara is the samashti, Jiva is the vyashti. The Jiva has its upadhi as this body mind sense complex, vyashti body mind sense complex, whereas Ishvara has a samashti upadhi. And what is that upadhi of Ishvara which is capable of projecting this entire universe? That upadhi is called as Maya. Maya becomes the very upadhi, the very attribute of Ishvara, because of which Brahman or Ishvara is able to project an entire universe. So now let us see the 31st verse, which says, अविद्योपाधिको जीवः मायोपाधिक ईश्वरः मायाविद्यागुणातीतं ब्रह्म वेदान्तडिण्डिमः. So here, avidya upadhiko jivaha. Jiva is what? Jiva has avidya as his upadhi, because of which the body mind sense complex are projected. And because of this avidya, avidya means the avarana shakti of Maya, this projected body mind sense complex is taken to be the reality. So who is Jiva? The Jiva is nothing but avidya upadhikaha. The Jiva has the avidya upadhi. Mayopadhika Ishvara. Ishvara has his upadhi as Maya, which is not avidya. This Maya does not cause any ignorance to Ishvara. Ishvara is what? All knowledge. Because of all knowledge, Ishvara is the one who is, as Jagat Karanam, is projecting this entire universe. Okay? So what's the meaning of this? Mayopadhikaha Ishvaraha. Ishvara is associated with Trigunatmika Maya as his upadhi. This upadhi, Maya, in Ishvara does not have the capacity to cause any kind of avidya. There's no question of any avidya in Ishvara. There is no veiling of knowledge of Ishvara. Why? Because Ishvara is all knowledge. Ishvara is all knowledge. There's no question of Maya causing any kind of a veiling on Ishvara. Whereas, because of that Maya Upadhi, Ishvara is able to project the entire universe, Trigunatmika universe, because Maya is Trigunatmika, this entire Trigunya, three attributes are there, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, Rupi, they are there in this particular Nama Rupa Prapancha. So, what is Ishvara's Upadhi? Ishvara is Maya Upadhikaha, Mayopadhikaha Ishvaraha. Whereas the individual Jiva, actually the Jiva is also Brahman only. To call myself an individual Jiva, it is not correct. But that is my avidya. You know what I do? I think that this consciousness here is separate from the other living being. Therefore, I am a separate individual Jiva. And somebody else there, you are a separate individual Jiva. You have a separate consciousness in you. I have a separate consciousness in me. This is my avidya. I am not able to see that it is the same First of all, I am not able to see myself as the consciousness. I see myself as the body mind sense complex. That is the first avidya. Because Maya as an upadhi has veiled my knowledge about myself. So partially, it has not totally veiled. It has partially, I know I am, but I don't know I am Brahman. I know I am, isn't it? Nobody need prove that I am. I am iti, I am aware of. Aham asmi iti, constantly it is there. I am, I know. But what am I? I do not know. Am I this body mind sense complex? That's what I think I am. What am I really? I am that consciousness kshetrajna, and it is that one consciousness which is called as Brahman, and that which is there in every other jiva. And that consciousness existence is the adhishtanam of this entire universe. This consciousness is behind the Ishvara Upadhi also. This consciousness is behind this Jiva Upadhi also. I do not know. This is my Ajnanam. This is my Avidya. So what he says is that Avidya Upadhiko Jivaha. The Jiva is Avidya Upadhikaha. That which is associated with Avidya. Taking myself to be the body, mind, sense complex, not knowing myself to be the Atma Swarupam is my basic Avidya. Is it my fault? No. I'm born with that Avidya. I'm born with that avidya. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm born with that avidya. And what are the consequences? Though I know I am, I identify that I am with this body, mind, sense complex. I develop an ahankara, mamakara towards this body, mind, sense complex. And of course, mamakara extending to any other thing which is closely associated with this body, mind, sense complex. And that is what makes me an ignorant person. Okay, therefore, avidya upadiko jivaha. Whereas Ishvara is not ignorant. Ishvara is all knowledge. Ishvara is also Atma Swarupa only. But Ishvara is aware that I am the Atma Swarupa and I am going to hold this power called as Maya under my control and project this universe of names and forms. That's it. So, Ishvara is not afflicted by avidya. Ishvara, being all knowledge, knows and is aware that Ishvara is also nothing other than consciousness itself. But what do? We superimpose an upadhi on Ishvara and mistake that Ishvara to be a particular devata. Name and form, name and form, name and form. I give a particular name and form to Ishvara and call that particular form as Ganapati, as Devi, as Hanuman, as whichever deity I want. Nothing wrong in that. It is an alambanam for me, for my upasana and for my karma and upasana, for my worship. Nothing wrong initially. But ultimately, I have to understand that Ishvara is Maya Upadhikaha. Ishvara's Upadhi is Samashti Upadhi Maya. Ishvara does not have any confusion regarding itself. I'm not saying he or she because Ishvara it. Okay? Ishvara Upadhi also is what we have given. The names and forms. A particular body. Lion and man in Narasimha Avatara. Okay, elephant and human in Ganapati. Who has given that upadhi? We have given. Okay, Ishvara is nothing but that consciousness, and whose upadhi is Maya. And with that Maya upadhi, Ishvara becomes the Jagat Karana Brahman or Ishvara, which projects Maya, projects this entire name and form universe. Therefore, he says that is the difference between Jiva and Ishvara. That is why Jiva Ishvara Aikyam is possible. Okay. Upadhis are mithya in both of us. In Ishvara also, the upadhi is vyavaharika. In me also, the upadhi is vyavaharika. What is the reality between the Jiva? Atma, this consciousness, Brahman. What is the reality behind Ishvara? Same Atma or Brahman. That is why Ishvara Jiva Abheda is possible to prove. Mahavakyas only say that. Jiva Ishvara Abheda is talked about by the Mahavakyas because the upadhi of the Jiva, the upadhi of Ishvara, both are false. Both are only Vyavaharika. What is the reality? My reality being Atma Ishvara's reality being Atma or consciousness, there is no bheda between Jiva and Ishvara. So he says that avidya upadhiko jivaha maya upadhikaha, avidya upadhikaha jivaha mayopadhikaha ishvaraha maya avidya gunatitam brahma. Then what is Brahma? What is Ishvara? What is Brahman? Maya avidya guna atitam. Okay, we have seen that in the 14th chapter also. Gunatita. Okay, the one who's Gunatita? Atma is Gunatita. Atma is Gunatita. Isn't it? Huh? Atma is nothing but Gunatita. Then what is that which is having guna? The upadhi, body, mind, sense complex has the gunas. The whole universe has got the three gunas. But who am I? I am the Gunatita. Avidya guna maya atita atma ahamasmi. Maya guna upadhi maya avidya gunatita atma ishvara api asti. Ishvara also is maya avidya guna atitaha. And who am I? I am also this Atma who is maya avidya gunatitaha. Okay, what is maya? Ishvara upadhi. What is avidya? Jiva upadhi. Without avidya, who am I? Consciousness. Without maya, what is Ishvara? Nothing but consciousness. If you take away the two upadhis of avidya and maya from jiva and Ishvara, then there is one consciousness. Then there is no jiva, there is no Ishvara. What makes a jiva a jiva? The avidya upadhi makes the jiva a jiva. What makes Brahman Ishvara? The Maya Upadhi makes Brahman Ishvara. Avidya Upadhi makes Brahman a Jiva. Brahman is brought down to the level of Jiva by Avidya Upadhi. Brahman is mistaken to be the entire Jagat by Maya Upadhi. And what is Brahma? Maya avidya gunatitaha brahmaha iti Vedantadindimah. Okay, so that is the actual this one. So some of the mayam tu prakritim vidhi mayinam tu maheshwaraha. This is one of the pramanas that is given by the Upanishads that comes in Shvetashvatara Upanishad. And also in Brihadaranyaka there is one mantra which say asthulam ananuhu, that which is neither big nor which is small, neither which is long nor which is short. What is the meaning of that? That means there is no upadhi. Upadhi rahita Brahma is the reality of Jiva also, Ishvara also. When Brahman is in some way associated with avidya upadhi, Brahman is brought down to the level of Jiva. And when Brahman is associated with Maya upadhi, Brahman is known as Ishvara or Jagat Karanam Ishvara. So you have to know this. So it's very disturbing sometimes to know that Ishvara is also upadhi. Whichever name and form we are taking and doing worship, that is also mithya, isn't it? Now, if you say Ganapati, Ganapati is nothing but that consciousness alone. But that upadhi which we have given as the one which has an elephant head and the body of a fat individual, that is given by us. That is the upadhi. That is not the reality of Ganapati. That is why we have one Ganapati Atharva Shirsha we have got, in which Ganapati is described as the consciousness and not as that particular body, name and form. Tvameva Tattvamasi. Okay. Namaste Ganapataye. You are that Tattvam only. You are that Brahman only. Okay. You are everything here. But at the same time, you are nothing but that consciousness. That is described. So all our gods, all our goddesses, that we have given a certain name and form, it is not a problem. It is an alambanam for our worship. Nothing wrong in having a name and form for a particular devata and saying that I am reaching Brahman through this devata. Nothing wrong. Brahman itself, for the sake of the sadhakas, manifests in different forms. And we can take that Ishvara to be of any name and form as we want. We can superimpose any name and form on Ishvara, which becomes useful for our worship, an alambanam for our worship. Next, we go to the 32nd verse. Sakarancha nirakaram sagunam cha gunatmakam tattvam tad brahma paramam iti vedantadindimah. So here he says, Brahman is that pure consciousness, which is nirakaram, nirgunam, the tattvam behind everything. Brahman is that consciousness, existence, tattvam behind everything. Behind this individual upadhi, behind the Ishvara or Samashti upadhi. But then Brahman can attain sakaram, that is, it can present with the name and form for the sake of the benefit of the people, for the sake of benefit of those who want to reach out to that Nirguna Brahman through Saguna Brahma Upasana. That is why it is said that Brahman can be worshipped as Saguna Brahman or inquired into as Nirguna Brahman. We can't worship Nirguna Brahman because there is no name and form. But the same Nirguna, that is Gunatita, and Nirvikara, Nishkala Brahman, can appear with a Akara. So it is Sakara Brahman, Saguna Brahman with gunas. We also talk about our devatas and devis having a certain, kind of a guna. We say that particular devata is a very tamasic devata, Kali and all that we say. And we say Gauri is a very Saumya devata. Do you think really Ishvara has these gunas? We are imposing these gunas on the various devatas and devis for our own purpose, because through Saguna Ishvara Upasana as Alambanam with a particular name and form, I can reach to inquiry of Nirguna Brahman. That is why in Bhagavad Gita also, Bhagwan Krishna talked about what? Saguna Ishvara. So, he talked about what? Ekarupa Ishvara Bhakti. Then Aneka Rupa Ishvara Bhakti. That is Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakti. Then Arupa Ishvara Bhakti. So I can see the same Brahman in one particular form, in the form of my Ishtadevata. Or slowly, when I start expanding my intellect, I can see the whole universe as Vishwarupa Darshanam of Ishvara. How do these things help me? Ultimately, these things help me into connecting to that Nirguna Brahman. So Brahman may be Sakaram or Nirakaram. Basically, Brahman is Nirakaram only, purely consciousness, but can manifest with a particular name and form for the sake of a sadhaka. So, Brahman can be Sakara, Cha Nirakaram. Brahman can be Sakara or Nirakara. Sagunam Cha Agunatmakam. Brahman can be evoked in the form of a Saguna Brahma or Nirguna Brahma. Nirguna Brahma means mere pure consciousness existence. Saguna Brahma means with a name and form. Tattvam Tad Brahma Paramam. Okay? That Tattvam called as Param Brahma, which is Upadhirahitaha, which is without any avidya upadhi, without any maya upadhi, without any gunas, that tattvam, that consciousness which is Param Brahma can manifest itself even with names and forms. Therefore, we say the entire Jagat is a manifestation of Brahman, manifestation of Ishvara. It is Brahman, it is Ishvara who's manifesting in various names and forms. And therefore it is said, Sarvam Ishvaramayam Jagat. It is said that you can hold on to any form in the universe and worship, because ultimately it is the name and form of Ishvara. Any form, it doesn't matter. I can take any form of an animal or a plant or half animal, half man, anything I can take. 8 arms, 4 arms, any number of arms, anything I can take. So this Param Brahma Tattvam, this consciousness alone, can manifest Sakara Rupena, Saguna Rupena for the benefit of a sadhaka. Because suddenly I cannot connect myself to that Nirguna, all pervasive Brahman. I require an alambanam to reach, to understand that, to even do Brahma or consciousness vichara. There's no worship for Nirguna Brahman. It is only vichara. It's only inquiry into Brahman. Even to reach that stage of maturity, I need to go through Saguna Brahma Upasana. That is why we are doing all the pujas, the way it is to be done, Shodasha Upachara pujas, Panchayatana pujas, and doing so many other upasanas also, holding on. Japa we are doing. One particular deity's name we are taking, repeating again and doing japa. What does it mean? It is Saguna Ishvara Upasana, which is an alambanam for me to prepare myself for the inquiry into that Gunatita Nirakara Brahman. So he says that here it is nothing but the same Brahman which can manifest in both ways. Even Upanishads talk about, certain forms for Brahman, how Brahman looks. That is only for the sake of Upasana. That's only for the sake of connecting to this as a step towards inquiry into Nirguna Brahman. Then in the 33rd verse we take, he says, Dvijatvam vidhyanushtanat vipratvam veda pathataha brahmanyam brahma vijnanat iti vedantadindimah. He says, when a person, whichever varnashrama he belongs to, follows the karmas and the anushtana which is prescribed by the Vedas, he is called as a Dvija. That's why when the Yajnopavitam is used or Brahmopadesham is given at the time of the Upanayanam for a person, he becomes an adhikari to follow the karmas and the upasanas which are prescribed by the Vedas for his particular ashrama and varna. Before that, the person is not an adhikari. So, a person becomes an adhikari for following the Veda Vihita karmas according to his ashrama and varna with a certain kind of a, some kind of an initiation, which is maybe in the form of Upanayana. And this kind of an initiation, after which a person is capable of or fit to follow the karma and upasana anushtanams given by the Vedas, such a person is called as a dvija. Dvija means the person who is fit to or authorized to or who is an adhikari to do the karma and upasanas given by the Veda Purva according to his varna and ashrama. Then, what is Vipra? Vipratvam. We have heard these words. Vija, Vipra, Brahmana. So, what is a Vipra? Vipratvam Veda Pathataha. When a person starts Veda Patha, starts chanting the Vedas, knows the Vedas by heart. He's supposed to know the meaning also, but when a person chants Vedas and when the person knows the Vedas, okay, Veda Patha, the one who knows how to chant the Vedas, and to some extent he should know the meaning of what those Veda mantras say also, such a person becomes a Vipraha. Vipraha Veda Pathat. So, a Dvija is the one who gets the adhikaritvam to do karmas and upasanas as given by the Vedas. Whereas the same Dvija, when he learns Veda Patha, learns to chant the Vedas, Veda Pathataha Vipratvam. Such a person is called as a Vipraha. Vipraha means he is the one who is a knower of Vedas. Then who's a Brahmana? Brahmanyam Brahma Vijnanad iti Vedantadindimah. Okay. By birth, nobody is a Dvija. Nobody is a Vipra. And by birth, nobody is a Brahmana also. Nobody knows Brahman, maybe very few. Those who are fully prepared for this, and like Vamadeva Rishi, who got this knowledge, Aham Brahmasmi, when he was in the mother's womb only. But most of us, all of us who are born, we are neither Brahmanas, nor we are Dvijas, nor we are Vipras. Okay? And Brahmana is not only one of the Varnas, but a Brahmana Brahmani Charati. Sorry, that is the one who that is Brahmachari, Brahmani Charati iti Brahmachari. But here, the one who knows Brahman, the one who is committed to knowing Brahman and knows Brahman as Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Brahma Atma Ahamasmi iti, the one who knows, such a person becomes a Brahmana. So the knower of Brahman is a Brahmana. That's what the Vedas say. Of course, you may be born in the particular Varna of a Brahmana, in the household of a Brahmana. You may have all the gunas of a Brahmana. You may have all the karmas of a Brahmana you may do. Ultimately, what is Brahmanyam ultimately is knowing this Brahman. The knowledge of this Brahman is called as, the person who has this, he is called as Brahmana. He is the one who is called as Brahmana. So here he says that the one, no one is born either a Dvija or a Vipra or Brahmana, but the Vedokta karmas, when a person is capable of or who is now fit to do the Vedokta karmas, he is called as a Dvija. And the one after Dvijatvam, after that, the one who knows how to chant the Vedas, Veda Adhyayana. By Veda Adhyayana, one becomes a Vipra. Third thing, by only knowing this Brahman only, this Advitiya, Ekameva Advitiya Brahma Ahameva Asmi iti, this knowledge alone is really what makes a person a Brahmana. The person may be born in any kind of a Varna. He may be born in any family. But what makes a person ultimately a Brahmana is nothing other than this Ekameva Advitiya Brahma Jnanam. This Advitiya Brahma Ahameva Asmi iti, that knowledge alone ultimately makes a person a Brahmana. Then, in the next verse, in the 34th verse, again, the author wants to say that Jiva and Brahma are not different from each other. We saw that in which verse did we see that? Yeah, we saw that in the 15th verse. Sthito Brahmatmana Jivaha Brahma Jivana Sthitam iti we saw. Brahman only exists in the form of Jiva. Jiva only exists in the form of Brahman, we saw. But here he wants to say something similar, and he says that Brahman is the consciousness in everything. Brahman is the Sarvatma. Brahman is in everything and everything is in Brahman. That's what he wants to say. So what is this verse? Sarvatmana sthitam Brahma sarvam brahmatmana sthitam na karyam karanad bhinnam iti Vedantadindimah. Two concepts which he has brought here. One thing is Brahman is Jagat Karanam, whereas the Jagat is Brahma Karyam. The Karanam cannot exist separate from or distinct from Karyam. For example, the Karanam is clay, the Karyam is pot, plate, vessel, whatever it is. Then, what are all these things? The pot, the plate, the glass, all these are the karyams of clay. Are they different from clay? No. The clay only exists as the pot, as the plate, as the glass. Correct? And the glass and the pot and the plate are nothing but clay. Right? So, Karanam clay is there in all the karyams of clay. You take another example of gold and ornaments. Gold is the Karanam. Hundreds of ornaments we have as Karyam. But are the Karyam ornaments different from the gold? No. Karanam gold itself exists in all the ornaments. Then what are the ornaments? Mere names and forms for the same gold. The same gold with a particular name and form is called as a necklace. The same gold with a particular name and form is called as the earring. The same gold with another name and form is called as the ring. Correct? So, the Karanam gold alone exists in the Karyam. Whatever we see as different manifestations of this gold is nothing but names and forms. Similarly, if Brahman is the Jagat Karanam If Brahman is Karanam and Jagat is Karyam, then Brahman is there in every Karyam as its Adhishtanam. Then what is Jagat? Mere Nama Rupa for this Brahman. Ultimately, the whole universe is nothing but Brahman itself with a certain Nama Rupa. When you just intellectually remove the Nama Rupa, what is there is only Brahman. Take the gold example. The gold only manifests as 10 different ornaments. The 10 different ornaments are not different from gold. It is gold only which exists as these 10 ornaments. Then what is that particular thing called ring and chain and bangle, etc.? It's only a name given to a particular form of gold. And ultimately, if you intellectually remove the upadhi called as the ring or the bangle or the gold, what remains is only gold. Similarly, this Brahman is the Karanam for this entire universe. All the names and forms in the entire universe are mere names and forms for Brahman only. That's why one Upanishad says, Vacharambanam vikaro namadheyam. That means what? Whatever name you give is only a given name for a form. Okay? Gold itself appears in the form of bangle. The form is bangle. The name given to that form of gold is called as the bangle. So what is a bangle? Vacharambanam vikaro namadheyam. Okay, then what is the Satyam? Gold alone is Satyam. Similarly, Brahman is the Karanam for this entire Jagat. Brahman manifests as the entire Jagat, and all the names and forms that we see in entire Jagat is nothing but Vacharambanam Vikaro Namadheyam. What exists is only Brahman. And what is that Brahman? Na karyam karanat bhinnam iti Vedantadindimah. This Brahman, which exists by itself, is neither the Karanam nor the Karyam. It is mere Brahman, its manifestation into multiple forms because of Maya, because of the projection of Maya, that one Brahman appears to be multiple. And all the names that are given are nothing but names for a particular form. Ultimately, Brahman is neither the Karanam nor the Karyam. Brahman remains Brahman. Like gold is neither the Karanam nor the Karyam. Gold is gold only. But in that Karyam, which we say, in those particular ornaments, because we see a certain name, certain shape, we give it a particular name and form. But gold is gold even before the ornaments, after the ornaments also, gold remains gold. Therefore, Karya Karana Vilakshana is this Atma or Brahman. This requires a little more explanation, which we'll do in the next session. Nandantu sadhaka sarve vinashyantu vidushakaha avastha shambhavi mestu prasannostu gurus sada sarve bhavantu sukhinaha sarve santu niramayaha sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit dukkham apnuyat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.